For a basic thorka, what you need is 2 medium onions finely chopped. With that you need a whole bulb of garlic, again very, very finely chopped.
Right.
With the bulb of garlic, once you've done that, you look at the quantity and you just want slightly less of the ginger. But once you get the hang of it, you can vary the ingredients according to how you like your curry.
Okay.
So what I've done is just taken a bulb of garlic, looked at how much it was,
Yeah.
once it's been minced, sort of judged how much I need for the ginger. And the chillies I do in the same way. Those small green ones that you get from Indian shops, you can get them from any Indian shop.
Right.
And
that's 2 of those.
Yeah, 2 of those, again minced up, but again you can vary that to how hot or how mild you actually like your curry.
And it looks like you've got the seeds in there still.
Yeah, just throw the seeds in the
whole
whole
thing.
lot. And the other ingredients is half a 15-ounce tin of tomatoes. And again, you can vary the amount of tomatoes that you want to use in there. Next ingredient is the sort of herbs and spices. We start off the cooking with the onions is whole cumin seeds, or jeera as we call it. Teaspoon of this.
Right.
We also use ground turmeric, which actually gives it some flavour but also colouring as well. The vegetable oil to fry the onions in. Teaspoon of salt, or however much salt you want to put in, entirely up to you. And something that we're all familiar with is garam masala.
So this is all you're going to use apart from the fresh coriander?
Which is in the freezer.
Which is in the freezer.
Yeah.
Right, so what do you start with now then?
Okay, what we start with doing is putting the vegetable oil. You just use 2 large tablespoons of oil.
Yeah, that's not a tablespoon though.
Sorry, this is I don't know what this is. This is a serving spoon.
That's like a ladle almost.
A ladle full.
Yeah.
Heaped teaspoon of the cumin seeds.
Right, go in
You
there.
put those in, and they start sizzling away. The important thing here is not to burn them. So you just let them. They'll go slightly darker than they are. So you just leave those to fry a little bit. Now, once they're sort of slightly golden brown, you throw in the onions, and this is where you need to be careful because it does spit. Now, with the onions, you can't let these stand. You've got to move them around all the time. And what we're aiming to do is to almost caramelise the onions. So you just basically fry them until they're a rich dark brown. But you do it slowly because you don't want to burn the onions. They've got to be evenly browned. And this will probably take you about 20 minutes. And this is continuous. This is the hardest part of doing, or the most tedious part of actually making a curry, is doing the onions.
So how long have you now been frying these onions?
Probably not that long, probably about 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes.
You've had these on quite a high heat.
Yeah, and I've turned it down because I don't want to burn them. I've turned it, I mean, if you have a look at the flame now, that's what it was, and I've turned it down quite a lot.
Right.
But I still need the oil to be hot enough to darken the onions.
Yes.
And they're starting to darken. This is where you've got to be really, really careful. Now, at that point there, and they're golden brown now, what I'm going to do is put in the garlic.
Right. So the minced garlic goes in.
Minced garlic goes in. Now, the onions will continue to brown. Now, you do need to turn the gas down slightly because you don't want to burn the garlic. What you want to do is to brown the garlic. You just cook it really gently. Now, the thing about it, I've used a whole bulb of garlic, and you think to yourself, my God, that's going to stink. But actually, if you cook garlic properly and if you cook it slowly, A, it won't burn, and B, it won't smell.
So if you cook it really slowly, it will become really mellow and give flavour, but not that kind of
not the sharp,
stingy,
like raw,
tangy,
raw garlic has. So probably about 3-4 minutes with the garlic, and I just sort of check it every now and again and just make sure it's not burning. And the onions will continue to get darker. Here goes the ginger. Chillies, the turmeric.
1 teaspoon?
Yeah.
Or 2?
Just
one heap?
Just heaps, yeah. And then start moving that round. And what you're going to do is the onions are still getting darker. You put the ginger and the chillies in. And what you're doing here is just very gently cooking everything together. And the turmeric actually goes darker when you cook it. You don't want to burn it because it will taste bitter. Right, so we've got freshly chopped coriander, and that's straight from the freezer, which is why you can't leave it out because it goes mushy. Which I'll just put in. I just use my hand to do this. I mean, you probably want to be a bit more scientific about it. About a tablespoonful of salt.
A tablespoon?
Sorry, a teaspoon.
Right.
Table and teaspoons. Right, just throw that in.
Okay, so salt. And then the fresh coriander straight from the freezer.
Right, do you know what? You can put in as much as you want of this. I mean, that is half a tub. That's probably a couple of tablespoons. Initially, what I'll do is I'll put 2 in, see how it looks. In fact, what I'll do is just put in. There's about four of those in there.
And you would say that is about half a can of?
Half a can.
Half a
it's
can.
About half a can. We're almost done. And so that's just a heaped teaspoon. Thing about the garam masala is, again, when you put this in, you don't want to overcook this at this stage. You just let all of the flavours infuse into it. It doesn't look like a lot there, but if you think about how concentrated the flavours are here, you can use this for meat, fish, but you can use it for beef, lamb, pork, anything, absolutely, chicken.
Yeah. So if you were using this for, say, chicken, and how many people, if you use all of that, how many people could you make a curry for if you make the chicken curry? Okay,
if I was making chicken curry, I would probably I could dice up 8 chicken breasts in this, put it in the pan with about half a pint of water, and it creates a really thick sauce, and then you can either have it with naan bread or with rice. Now,
and how many people would that serve?
That would be enough for probably 4 to 6 people. So you don't need a lot of this. It just doesn't look like a lot, but if you think about what you put in there, it's concentrated flavour effectively.
Yeah.
Now what it's doing, it's kind of sizzling away. I'm going to turn it down and just let it cook for a little bit longer. And what will start happening is when, at the moment it isn't happening, but can you see that as the oil starts coming out, at the moment it isn't coming out, at the moment it's just bubbling away underneath, but as the oil sort of drains out, then you turn it off.
Right, so what do you mean, that when you can't really see the oil anymore?
Can
or
you
when
see the oil coming out underneath?
Yeah, the bubbles.
Yeah, it's not started coming out yet.
Oh right, okay.
But what you do is you just leave it as it is, and it'll start sort of coming out. So I'd probably say another minute or so. So you can see it's starting to come out from underneath.
So it should be sort of a bit oily around the edges there, between the pan and the actual sauce. Is this a sauce? What do you call this?
Well, we call it thorka, but it does effectively form a sauce, because if you put water into this with the chicken, it produces the sauce. And you can also use this for what they call garam, which is minced pork.
All right. So it's effectively a paste that you kind of a concentrated paste
Absolutely.
to become.
You see the oil starting to come out.
Yeah.
Right, and I'm just going to turn that off now. It's ready.
Wow.
I mean, the colour's brilliant. The colour's spot on.
Yeah, it looks very nice.
Just try it.
Have a little taste.
Yeah.
It'll be really hot now.
Spot on.
You're happy with that?
Very.
Okay.
Very.
And you can now use this for meat, chicken, fish, and that you mentioned the other day some cheese. What's that called?
Paneer.
Indian cheese. Paneer.
Paneer is kind of like
it's almost like tofu or something.
Tofu, yeah. It's made from milk and it's just compressed. Okay.
All right. Thanks very much.
Pleasure.
Thank you.